Zootopia 2 is a good movie, and I truly mean that. I may not be the most greatest Zootopia fan at all, or even debate about the knowledge of how they tackle with social issues like the others, but the core essence of this film and what it brings for audiences is certainly a welcomed one. I mean, I will have more to say when it officially comes out next year on streaming to talk about it, with this being a remotely spoiler-free review, but for now, for what it accomplished, I think it suffices for a sequel. Like, what I'll say right now with full confidence is that this is actually the best sequel that Walt Disney Animation Studios has even produced by far, which is saying something concerning the quality of all the others. Compared to last year with Moana 2, Zootopia 2 was intended to be a straight-up movie sequel from the start, where they already did what was needed to be done in a series with Zootopia Plus, short and sweet and didn't go too far other than that, where the previous sequel release in Moana 2 was mainly for revenue reasons and hardly ever a decent story for an actual film, just apparently stitched together from episodes of a TV series. And of course, even better than those like Frozen 2, which didn't know which kind of direction it was going for with all the ways that it solved its major plot issues. And of course, Ralph Breaks the Internet, which is just generally a sucky sequel, where this just stands the test of time as the best they could even do. And despite its own shortcomings staying relatively safe within the confines of the original Zootopia going along those plot lines, people will still come out with it with a thorough good time. And that's a plus on the parts of having Jared Bush and Byron Howard involved, since they directed and wrote the first film, and then of course did the best modern Disney film to date, being Encanto, as Jared's leadership of Disney Animation takes fold. That in order to rebuild the structure of trust in the studio, they have to do things like this and put in the effort to actually accomplish that. Of course, I'm stating something like this because a few years ago I talked about how I wasn't particularly fond of them doing sequels, but with the reaction of original movies not doing as well as they could, this is just the way that the world has to work now. But obviously, the biggest thing to enjoy about Zootopia 2 is the characters, the dynamic of Nick and Judy, and then going with the newer ones like Gary the Snake played by Ke Huy Quan or Andy Samberg as Pauber. Or speaking of characters like those, I do like what they do with the reptile issue with Ke Huy Quan's character and the past of Zootopia, and of course having a better class of villain compared to my feelings of the first within the background of Zootopia that does connect to an important theme of the foundations of who actually did it, who actually founded this society. Stuff again that can be construed in a political way, but subtly like the themes of the first, still being quite where kids won't even notice again. Again, that's another problem that many people have in the way that they present such issues with people talking about them over the years, but for me, it works without saying too much that is still within the fun adventure that is the main point of getting people to the theater, which also is still more than you could say about the other studios when they make their animal or funny wacky modern style animated film. Not saying too much while staying within that relatively wacky kind of style. But one of the most surprising things about this movie is the enormously stacked cast that they have, recognizing almost everyone who plays a creature, big or small, if you get what I mean, both inside and outside of the film. Examples are just having the voice actors be consisting of Disney princesses, other Disney characters, Patrick Warburton, Michael J. Fox as a fox named Michael J, and even Bob Iger himself starring as Bob Tiger. Like literally, this must be the first time I've ever seen a Disney animated film with the CEO in a voice-acted role. And that's just crazy to me to even think about, where you just have to take a look at the cast of characters themselves to even remotely believe what the hell I'm talking about. But then again, most people are probably not going to pick up on that, or even care. Nobody will watch a movie just because Bob Iger's in it, probably doing the opposite if they knew that's what they were all going to get, with a continued narrative that actually counts the most. The fun Easter eggs and dynamic relationships ensure people will get the best time that they came for, on a better level than the previous Disney sequels that accomplished nothing ever since The Rescuers Down Under in 1990. And I think that's personally a big win for Disney's part in the modern age if people feel this way, judging by critic reviews that are far better than the past sequel films and a universal agreement upon those who saw it. Zootopia 2 is just clearly the best one, in line with straddling important themes that reality has faced, while also good entertainment that makes kid-friendly movies successful enough for families as a whole to enjoy. Like, the most important part of that would be to remember the friendship or the ongoing relationship that they have, the trials and tribulations of Nick and Judy's relationship, being on the police force and what comes after that, and of course the characters around them reacting to how their societies are formed. So speaking of the positive reactions that me and many others are saying about this film, it's a no-brainer to expect that this film is going to also reach $1 billion. Because if something like Moana 2 can reach $1 billion despite being made for TV, then so can something like this. considering the last film actually did reach $1 billion too. Where the biggest thing to watch out of Zootopia 2 is the box office performance in countries like China, where I've already heard that Zootopia 2 hopped to a record-breaking $34 million start in China, the biggest opening day for a US animated movie, which means it's going to be really successful. Because if you look at the last film, this film really did so well in China, which is the second largest market up to North America's own. And the reason to speak about this is because it's so impressive that such a film with such themes actually take off unlike anything we've ever seen before in that country. And that's something to be really appreciated about what Zootopia brings to a worldwide audience, and why it still sticks to us today. But overall, to us mainly over here, that's not going to be a really big factor to play in just watching a movie and think if it's good or not, but just a really interesting thing to note how it does appeal to many types of people, just like Disney had did in the past. And that's another positive to say on Disney's part, which technically is all I really have to say for this video without getting into any spoilers. I'm sure others will dive mostly into those aspects if they see fit, and how others feel about that right now is another different issue that we could cover in another time. But if you enjoy a simple, straightforward adventure in the vein of the original Zootopia, then this movie has got you covered, and has the benefit of being the best they could do right now, even better than some of the original films they've released in the past few years. And I can only hope this can inspire the right amount of choices for upcoming sequels, where they actually can feel complete instead of half-baked ideas that don't feel finished or just stitched together from previous projects, long enough to stay relevant rather than a straight popcorn side flick. And yeah, I'm all done. Goodbye.